welcome back. It's time for the armature. So what I did was I made this maquette. What this is going to help me do right now is determine the proportions for the armature that I'm going to make. So I'm going to start off by just covering the basics of what I think I'm going to do for the armature. Keep in mind that, as I said in the first episode, that what you think you're going to do at first is never going to be the thing you actually do. Which is very sad, but true. Anyway, we'll see. Maybe I'm good enough that won't be the case now. So, we're going to make this guy about 40 inches tall, but as you can see, his arm kind of goes up above his head a little bit, so maybe 40-ish, which is fine. Okay, so the materials that I'm going to start out with. Number one, I got this spinny McGinney, and it's for, I think it's from cabinets and stuff, or I don't know. You get it at a Goodwill or a secondhand store, garage sales, your kitchen, I don't know. The main skeleton that I'm going to make him out of is this PVC pipe. I just got the cheapest kind that I could find. Ideally, I would make it out of stuff that's like really stiff, like that stuff that pennies are made out of. Copper, thank you. Okay, so I would make it out of copper, but copper right now is about $8 billion an ounce, so I'm not doing that. I think that with the rigidity of, this is the other thing I'm working on with, rigidity of the foam, along with the stability of the PVC pipe, will be enough to hold the guy up. This is how I'm going to get started. I will go ahead and don my helmet cam. Start chopping stuff up here. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the proportions. If he's going to be 40 inches tall, we'll start measuring out basics, how long his arms are, how long his legs are, how tall his torso is. So looking at my picture, I'm going to do a quick little bit of math here. Stay with me. Alright, according to the maths, his arm is about 25 inches long. And that's going from the joint, right? I'm not measuring from the very top of his silhouette to the very bottom of his knuckles. I'm going from joint to joint because that's what the armature is going to cover. So, first thing I shall do is cut this to a manageable size. So right now it's clearly unmanageable. Careful. As a matter of fact, I have a little story about that. My son was cleaning up back there, and he hit the end of this thing, which is about 18 feet over there, and it knocked over this and broke it into about 5 pieces, but nothing a little super glue couldn't fix. Okay, so 25 inches. Remember to use your lever lock 30. 25. And I'm going a bit rough here. There's no need to be super finicky on a big organic creature like this. Oh, and this tool is called it's kind of rubbed off. It's hard to see. I think it might be called a 13 Points USA. So go to your hardware store and ask for a 13 Points USA. Perfect for cutting PVC pipe. So there's an arm. So now I can hold this up to this and say, okay, proportionately you get a pretty good idea that this guy is approximately a lot bigger than this guy. And since I'm pretty sure he has 2 arms, hold on, let me check. 1, 2. Yeah, he's got 2 arms, so we'll just cut another length real quick. You know what? I forgot about something. When you're making an armature, usually the legs are what's going into the ground, and so it's best to make the legs much longer than they actually need to be, because you're going to want to stick it into the ground quite a bit to give your statue stability. And so I forgot to do that, so hopefully we can use this for something else. Alright, so now we've got the pieces. And oh, it never hurts to... Wait for it. Well, I had a reasonably sized marker somewhere, but I don't anymore, so I've only got this giant one, but this will do. It's always a good idea to mark your pieces. So this is a leg. Now with these pieces, I got to the point where I've already used up all of my material. So looks like I'm gonna have to go to the store and buy more. But first I can give you some tips about how to work with this stuff. So when I bought this, the nice thing about this pipe, it's made for plumbing, so it's got all these connector pieces. So you can make elbow joints and hip joints and tongue joints, eyeball joints, any kind of joints you want. So I got so for instance, when I'm making the pelvis, I will connect, you know, these ones for the legs, and then the backbone like that, and then I'll do the same thing on the top for where the arms pop out. So the other cool thing, which I'm not going to demonstrate right now because I blew a fuse last time, is that you can use a heat gun, which is basically a blow dryer on steroids, and very gently, very slowly heat up the PVC. Try not to breathe it in too deeply, and so just kind of give it a bend, and then it'll hold that shape. So for, you know, when I need less than a 90-degree bend, I can do it this way. So yes, when you run to the store, be right back through the magics of editing, and you'll never know that there was a pause or a break or anything whatsoever. It's amazing. Amazing what technology can do. All right, here I go. And I'm back. Okay, so now I've got the pieces that I need, and I've got my arm, my leg, my arm, and then this is going to be my part of my spine. So the first thing I'm going to try to do is actually just build the bare skeleton, which means I'm going to need several short pieces. Now, a clamp would be really great in this kind of stuff. But it's also annoying to keep having to re-clamp it, so I use my legs. This is the official position that all real carpenters use when they saw. I've got bits and bobs. You can never have too many bits or bobs. Here's leg. This will be the hip joint. I think that's an A. You know, I was homeschooled in Alaska, so you gotta forgive my handwriting. That's true, actually. Literally, I was homeschooled in Alaska. North Pole, Alaska, to be precise. A little shout out to my North Pole homies. The way we shout out is like... It's not the North Pole. It's a little tourist trap town called North Pole. It's just southeast of Fairbanks. It's not even in the Arctic Circle. It's not far from the Arctic Circle, but it's not. I'm going to refer to my reference. This, I believe, is some kind of render from the actual game and the official book from the official team that officially brought you Shadow of Colossus. So it's nice to have this little illustration. And you can see his hip joints are much closer together than his shoulder joints. What that means to me is that if I've got his hips here, his shoulders are going to be out like there somewhere-ish. So, in fact, a little trick you can do, even though this is not a precise, you know, it'd be nice if we had him in the T pose so we can get precise measurements, but, you know, just eyeballing it with your fingers. Eyeballing with your fingers, you like that? You can see, okay, it's about that far there and about that far there, and that looks about double. So I'll measure this, and it looks like it's about, he's got 10-inch hips at this point. You know, I may go in and adjust as I go, but for now they're 10 inches. So I want to have about 20 inches on top, which means approximately 10-inch, let's see, for the armature piece that comes from the neck to the shoulder. Now that I think about it, it's not really, I don't actually want 10 inches because it's going to start a little bit out there. There's about an inch in the middle, so probably more like 8 or 9 inches. Oh man, I almost got my timer again. There we go. Okay. So as you'll recall, these legs aren't actually that long because I want to stick them into the base nice and deep to make sure that he is stable. But this is, yeah, that's approximately the proportions. And you'll notice there's no head because, well, his head goes straight forward out of his chest. So if they had a joint that came out of there, that would be super cool, but they don't. So I'm going to have to do some taping and gluing and stuff to get that. Also, the joints that I'm using here are temporary because the arm is not going out in that direction. In this case, the arm is going to go pretty, you know, his left arm is going to go almost straight out. From his shoulder. It's going to be twisted a little bit this way, and then I'll bend him at the elbow. The other arm, let's see, you look straight down at it, it goes, it's not it's definitely not a 90 degree. So I probably won't use that 90 degree guy. I might, we'll see. Just for the ease of moving this guy around, I'm gonna put him in this, use this joint again so everything's kind of will lay flat. Here's a fun trick. If you set up your armature, you know, if you have a thumbnail reference that's smaller than your armature, which this clearly is, you can set your armature up somewhere across the room. And then you go up and you put armature in front of it so you get a forced perspective and you can kind of get an idea of the scale. Now, it doesn't help that there's no light in front of here. Alright, better light. Now, you can see armature in the background, dude in the foreground, line up his hips, his shoulders, and around there. But he's in such a dynamic pose compared to the stick figure. It's kind of hard, but you can see that it's pretty close. It's close enough to start working with now. So before I start doing any serious posing on him, I'm going to be building up some strengthening parts. For instance, I'm not going to leave all of the weight of the top part of the sculpture, which is probably 80% of the weight, on this one tiny joint. I'm going to attach another one here. Double the support. You hear that? That's my math skills right there. 1 times 1. No wait, 1 plus 1 is... Wait. If you double 1... I don't remember, but you know, you get the idea. So what that leads me to next is how we're adding stuff to this. And what I'm going to use for that is this stuff. This is Mighty Putty, as made famous by that one guy who yells at the TV, or used to before he died. May he rest in peace. So this stuff is really old and really crappy, but I think it'll still get the basic job done. So it's a 2-part epoxy putty. Comes in these sticks. You can see there's this white core in there, and when it's not ages old, it's not brittle like porcelain like this. In order to mix it, I usually use gloves. I know what you're thinking. Why has this guy got gloves like this? No, it's not for illicit medical exams that I offer out of my garage. I mean, I have the sign out there, but so far no one has volunteered. So you can see it's softer and moister there in the middle. So this stuff is not going to mix super well because it's old, but because it's just part of this armature, there's going to be all sorts of other stuff packed in around it. It's not a huge deal. Ooh, that was fun. All right. You know, it occurs to me that the motion I was doing, I'll bet in fast forward that looked like a chicken dance or something. You should go ahead and rewind it, see if it does. No, I'll wait for you. Go ahead. Okay, so I got a ball of stuff, Mighty Putty. And this is going to look like I'm being perverse, but I promise I'm not. I'm going to stick this basically on his pelvis to provide... You know what, actually, before I do that, I'm going to saw this at an angle so it sits on that joint a little better. Here's a quick tip. If you need to saw something that's really tiny, you can't hold it down, You could get a clamp, or you can attach it to something. That way you have something to hold on to while you saw. Oh wow. Quick tip number 2, make sure you use this stuff quickly. This is already dry. Good news is, you get to watch me do the chicken dance again. And done. Okay, now I'm going to do this quickly. Next time I'm going to pre-saw this. Okay. So what this is going to let me do is put this chest piece in. So it's going to stick out here. I'm going to curve it around so it's going to be like his sternum, his chest area, his chestal region, if you will. Oh, and I will. If you look at this guy, he's kind of built like in the profile, kind of built like a triangle. If you look at a line from his hip joint up to his back where it starts to curve over, and then up to his neck and head, kind of have a triangle shape. Hence the triangle shape that I'm building here. Here's what I'm pondering right now is, while it's good to have this triangle shape, one thing that I wanted to do was make it so that he could, I could take him apart at the waist in an easy way. The reason is because it's easier to sculpt things when they're in bits and pieces rather than all together where you have to work around limbs and stuff like that. So the more pieces you can keep your thing apart in during the working process, the better. And so if there's if there's one joint, it's very easy to just pop that off. See how easy that is? Just pop that off. But with this thing sticking out, it's just awkward all around, isn't it? So what I might do is use a small bit here. Like I said, you can never have too many bits or bobs. And then I'll do another socket here. And so the idea is that you need to be able to push things straight down. You can't have it coming in from two different angles because that won't pull out easily. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. Now, getting back to, I think I was talking about this in the very first episode, is that you're going to be changing what you do all the time. And it's a natural part of the process, and don't let it discourage you or make you feel like you're incompetent, because you'll be at least as incompetent as me. Don't know if that's a compliment or not. So my plan B is to have two of these T-joints, and the trick is going to be making them as close to the same angle as possible, so when you're pulling two pieces out, they just pop right out. Fortunately, this putty has just a little bit of life left in it. This guy goes out about the right distance to the head. However, I don't want it to go all the way to the very tip. I want it to have plenty of room to build, to make adjustments, to keep things fluid. You generally don't want your armature to be, right at the surface of stuff. You end up fighting with it more often than not. So I try to stay more minimal with my armatures than a lot of sculptors do. Maybe they're just more confident or experienced or something. But If you're watching this and you're learning stuff from it, you are not experienced and you are not competent. I'm sorry. Alright, so now we're going to come to a part where I'm going to heat this up and bend it. So, because right now it sticks straight up and follows the spine, I need to do that triangle. So I'm going to give it a bit of a bend. So for this I'm going to have to turn some lights off so I don't blow a fuse. Alright, we'll see if that's enough lights. So this is a heat gun. I hold it a couple inches away. I keep moving the pipe a little bit. I'm not staying in one spot for too long because that'll get it all melty and burny and bubbly. Then you just got to hold it in place for a couple seconds. Yes, I'm aware of how wrong this looks. Alright, so now I've got his kind of chest, sternum, his head will be out here. What I don't have much support for is his lats, so I think I'm going to go ahead and just use some epoxy to put some more support there. Okay, well, I think I'm at a point where I can let this set up, everything harden up, and I'll come back and thing I'm going to do next is work a little twist into the spine. Even though I did turn the pelvis, and even though I'm going to be sculpting some twist into the muscles that go over the armature, I'm just not comfortable with how ramrod straight that spine is. So that's what I'll be working on. Well, for me it's next time. For you, it's like in 2 seconds. 1, 2, 2.5. Okay, a little more than 2 seconds. Anyway, so here's what we got. I'm going to bend this spine. Right now I tape that up. This is the beauty of duct tape, so you can always just pull it apart. That's why I didn't put a glob of stuff here, because I foresaw having to mess with the back. Alright, so I don't know about you, but I'm getting sick of this guy flopping all over the place, like floppy thing. So, I'm going to make the base for his feet to slot into. And hopefully that will, not hopefully, definitely, that will make it easier to look at all the different angles while doing stuff rather than having to hold him up with one arm all the time.